Your Holiness, Karegin II, Supreme Patriarch and Catholicos of all Armenians, Reverend representatives of churches and ecumenical organizations, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor and privilege to participate in this impressive event and to address this high-level conference as a keynote speaker, the Conference on International Religious Freedom and Peace. In my capacity as the human rights defender, being raised as a person with high respect towards religious beliefs, and as a citizen and statesman of multi-confessional state of Armenia, I strongly believe that religious freedom, that respect for religious beliefs are indispensable safeguards for peace and solidarity, for democracy and strong human rights system. Freedom of religion, along with freedom of thought and conscience, are values that have serious contribution in protection and promotion of every individual. The pluralism indissociable from a democratic society, which has been dearly won over the centuries, depends on it. Distinguished conference attendees, high-ranking religious leaders, renowned scholars and experts from around the globe are gathered together here in Mother See of Holy Echmiadzin to speak about issues related to the international religious freedom and preservation of the world's spiritual, cultural, and historical heritage. The centuries-long history of Armenian nation and the history of the last 3 decades of independence in Armenia have evidenced that international religious freedom and world's heritage often come under threat from ethnic and religious intolerance. This has been especially manifested during the tragic and dark days, last year especially in Armenia and Artsakh. In today's world, many countries have enshrined the freedom of thought, conscience and religion in their basic documents, but they dare to attack these human rights with aggressiveness and in a manner contrary not only to the principles of international law, but also to the principles of international religious freedom and peace. My address today is twofold. First, I will speak about the religious freedom as an essential human right, and secondly, I will introduce some examples of ethnic and religious intolerance and disrespect demonstrated openly by the Azerbaijani authority and military forces during and after the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh war. Important to note, all the facts that I will present to you have been duly recorded. Freedom of thought, conscience, and religion is one of the basic elements of democratic and civilized societies. It is interlinked to other human rights and fundamental freedoms, such as freedom of expression, freedom of assembly and associations, the right to respect for private and family life, the right to education, among others. Guarantees of religious liberty and respect for conscience and belief are inevitably found in constitutional texts, as well as in international and regional human rights instruments. To some extent, these reflect the concerns at the time of those who had been charged to draft these instruments. For instance, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948 provides that everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion. Another information is found in the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Such guarantees are found in other instruments at the regional level. The American Convention on Human Rights, African Charter on Human and People's Rights. In the European Convention on Human Rights, the key safeguards providing protection for freedom of thought, conscience and religion or belief are found in 2 provisions. Freedom of thought, conscience and belief is thus viewed primarily as an individual right. National, regional and international legal instruments reflect this. It is also viewed interconnected with the right to education, which is an important fact. The latter well highlighted both in Armenian constitution and the history of Armenian Apostolic Holy Church. The Constitution of Armenia is very unique in terms of underlining the exclusive mission of the national church, although it is paramount that the freedom of activities of religious organizations shall be guaranteed in our country. Be free of any discrimination, it strictly underlines the church's exceptional mission as a national church in the spiritual life of the Armenian people, in the development of their national culture and preservation of their national identity. We acknowledge that the Armenian Holy Church has been at the forefront of our cultural and educational advancement of the Armenian people, from the creation of our written language to the inspirational arrangements of composer Christ and to their essential role in developing the Armenian jurisprudence. The Armenian Church has created a wealth of arts, language, architecture, and music throughout history. It is the Armenian Church that has helped to unite the world-spread Armenian communities, to shed light to those living in diaspora, Armenian Spurk, and to shape the face of the Armenian nation and people, and to keep our heritage alive all through the centuries. And most importantly for me, as the human rights defender of Armenia, it is important the role of the Armenian National Church in human rights protection. And now let me turn to the ethnic and religious intolerance and cases of gross violation of religious rights during the recent Nagorno-Karabakh 2020 war. The results of the fact-finding activities conducted by the human rights defender of Armenia have established strong grounds to assess that the unlawful acts of aggression from Azerbaijani armed forces are ethnically motivated. They are based on the deeply rooted hatred against ethnic Armenians, which itself is sponsored and organized by the high-ranking officials of this neighboring country. In their public speeches and messages, the Azerbaijani authorities continuously insult Armenians, spew ethnic hatred towards Armenians, and spread Armenophobia. This public propaganda of animosity against Armenians are run almost every day. My analysis indicates that such a policy of hatred is institutional in nature and strongly based on ethnicity. Facts also clearly reveal and show that state-sponsored Armenophobia is also based on religious identity. Azerbaijani armed forces beheaded alive, executed and tortured Armenian civilians and military servicemen with special cynicism. The civilian community's vital infrastructures were deliberately targeted. The acts of vandalism and deliberate destruction of religious and historical cultural heritage in Artsakh should be also highlighted. As it was recorded as a result of military aggression against Artsakh, at least 1,456 overwhelmingly Armenian historical and cultural prominent immovable monuments, including 161 monasteries and churches, 591 khachkars or cross-stones, the ancient sites of Tigranakert, Azokh, Nor Karmiravan, Mirik, Keren, fortresses and castles, and other monuments remained under the control of Azerbaijan. 8 state museums also came under the control of Azerbaijan with 19,311 exhibits, as well as private museums of Armenian carpet and Armenian drum of Shushi. Few vivid examples of vandalism by Azerbaijani military might be mentioned here. On October 8, 2020, the Azerbaijani armed forces launched two intentional assaults on Holy Savior Ghazanchetsot's cathedral in the city of Shushi. This cathedral has always been a true symbol of Armenian culture and religious heritage in Artsakh. The Azerbaijani forces struck the cathedral for 2 times within a few hours with use of striking drones. By the way, civilians hiding in the basement of the church. This act is in line with continuous policy of destroying Armenian cultural heritage of Artsakh. It also demonstrates radical disrespect towards Christian element of Armenian identity. Furthermore, on 3rd of May 2021, that is after the war, a photo was published in the social media illustrating the removed dome of Ghazanchetsot's church. Other parts of this 19th century cathedral have been covered in scaffolding. During the war, the Azerbaijani military published a video which revealed them going about and cynically insulting and vandalizing the Armenian church. Images and the video of another 19th century church of Shushi, also known as Kanach Jam, did show severe destruction caused to the dome and the bell tower. The Zoravar Surp Astvatsatsin Armenian church in the Mekhakavan community in Artsakh was completely destroyed after it came under the Azerbaijani control. Shortly after cessation of hostilities, a video was published showing members of the Azerbaijani military with clearly visible Turkish flags on their uniforms, cynically dishonoring and vandalizing the Saint Yerishe Armenian church in Matagis, Artsakh, built in the 19th century. While knowing all too well that the church is Armenian, in the video, Azerbaijani soldiers, before entering the church, say the following, I'm citing, "This belongs to Armenians. Everything here belongs to Armenians. We have torn it. It's clear that these facts are acts of open hatred, both on ethnic and religious grounds. These cases are not isolated, but rather results of years of systemic hatred and enmity by the Azerbaijani authorities. There were dozens of cases of destruction of Armenian culture and religious heritages, tombs, khachkars, monuments, etc. More to say, our fact-finding mission revealed also facts of gross violations of the religious rights of Armenian prisoners of war and civilians. Some of them returned already from detention in Azerbaijan. For example, I will bring just one example. The crosses carried out by the captives were removed and destroyed demonstratively in front of their own eyes. And later, however, for showcase purposes, some prisoners were allowed to shave, allowed to take shower, and were taken to a church in Baku to put on public display before journalists as part of the show. Another case that demonstrates clearly deeply rooted hatred as a root cause for torture relates to the case when an Armenian civilian during the hostilities, during the war, from a village not far from Stepanakert, was tortured very severely, was humiliated, and subjected to this degrading treatment, only based on the fact that he is an Armenian and he is a Christian. The video, it is documented by us duly, translated and sent to international communities. The latest war undoubtedly illustrates that Armenian churches, cultural centers, tombs, monuments located in the areas under the control of Azerbaijan are endangered. Each and every Armenian, whether a woman, a child, or elderly, who will find himself or herself under the control of Azerbaijani armed forces shall be under imminent threat to his or her life and health. Hence, the activities and intentions of Azerbaijan cannot be called other than genocidal and ethnic cleansing policy, which creates a very real danger, not only to physical and existential security of Armenians, but also peace and solidarity in the region. The war of 2020 and all recent conflicts around the globe have demonstrated that the protection of religious and cultural heritage is extremely important from the protection of human lives. The Armenian Apostolic Church has played an indispensable role during the war in presenting the Azerbaijani atrocities and destruction of culture and religious heritage to the world. Many churches and ecumenical organizations do the same. And I have to express my deep acknowledgement and appreciation to the Armenian Apostolic Church for these very important activities and being always in contact with the Human Rights Defender's Office of Armenia. Religious peacemaking is becoming much more common as religion is a significant factor in conflict or post-conflict eras. In this respect, let me express my gratitude to the Armenian Apostolic Church and name it to Veaparter Garegin II for tireless efforts, extremely important activities in protecting and promoting religious freedom and peace in Armenia, the country in this region of crossroads for civilizations. I believe in the strong power of religions, and I trust that religious leadership may serve as a powerful force in bringing peace and solidarity in the region and the world. I believe that we, together, both statesmen and religious leaders, can enforce freedom and security and manifest peace, even in those countries that dare to underestimate the power of ethnic and religious tolerance. I thank you very much for your attention.